food is delicious and healthy, but still its presence on the international stage is not as pronounced. A young Korean-born Londoner who discovered the excellence of her motherland's food took to the streets to make Korean food better known to others. Her name is Joo Lee, and she's the founder of KORRITO. She's now visiting Seoul to make a documentary about Korean food, and she stopped by our studio to tell us more about her love and passion for Korean food. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. When did you move to the UK?
I moved to the UK aged 3 as a result of my father's job at the time. And I think the intention for him, at least, was to only stay for a couple of years. But a couple of years became decades, and here I am today.
Yeah. So you've spent most of your life in the UK.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you were quite a good student academically. You graduated from one of the world's top schools, Oxford, got a job at an investment bank, but you decided to drop all of that and start a Korean street food business called KORRITO. What happened?
For me, I think... like a lot of traditionally raised Korean, sort of second-generation Korean kids, I did the really good thing of studying hard, as you said.
Pleasing the parents.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not to say that I didn't enjoy those aspects of my life, but around me, I was seeing this kind of thriving scene in terms of the street food in London. I was also extremely inspired by a lot of my colleagues from Oxford, actually, 2 in particular, who up and left their jobs in similar corporate environments and went on to be very successful in terms of the food business. One in particular now runs a chain of burrito restaurants in London. The other was extremely popular in terms of a pizza van that he actually drove all the way around Italy, came back and started that. So I was seeing this happening and I thought, I need to jump on the bandwagon here. And for me, Korean food is so much more exciting than say, pizza. So I think that really pushed me to make a change.
What did your parents say about that decision?
Initially, you know what, I'm not going to lie, they were incredibly disappointed, and they said, you know, we didn't raise you to be
sell street food,
to be working in the markets. And I think for them, it's completely generational differences. They couldn't understand why I would want to leave the corporate world behind to do something that they saw as, you know, slightly blue collar, slightly less sort of prestigious
and risky.
Absolutely. But all it took was for them to come to the launch day, and as the day sort of wore on and they saw the amount of people that were queuing to buy the food, the feedback that you get instantly from a market setting. I think my mother, you know, she says that she's quite tearful and proud at the same time. And now they've done a complete sort of, you know, turnaround where they come and help me at the weekends. You know, they're very much a part of it. And
I understand your father's running the place while you're in Korea.
He is indeed. I did worry a little bit, but then I logged into our Twitter and saw someone had written something very positive in my absence. So I think that reassured me.
Had you always been into food, though? I mean, had you been into cooking?
Yeah, for sure. I think in some ways, for me, cooking, and particularly cooking Korean food, was a way for me to connect back to my homeland from London. So I always have really fond memories of my grandmother, for example, my maternal grandmother, cooking for me and asking questions about all the banchan that she would prepare, and recipes that we now use on our stall, in fact, come from her through my mother. And so I always had a really fond interest in cooking.
So KORRITO essentially is a food stall in a marketplace that sells Korean food?
Yeah, it's Korean food, but our signature is the burrito. So the Korean burrito, hence
that's
KORRITO.
Why it's KORRITO.
Yeah.
So what do you put in your Korean burrito?
So we've got 3 different kinds of meat with 3 different kinds of spice levels. We have the much loved and much known bulgogi beef. Then we have the spicy pork belly, which is a medium spice, more accessible to everybody. And then we have the buldak chicken, which is the spiciest on the menu.
Chicken.
And then we have 2 different kinds of rice, the ordinary rice and then the kimchi fried rice. And we've got 4 different kinds of toppings. So people can essentially pick and choose what they want and sort of customize their meals.
Yeah. What seems to be the most popular dish?
Spicy pork belly. Yeah, everybody loves a bit of pork belly.
What would you say is unique about food from KORRITO?
For me, I really didn't want to lose the authenticity of the recipes, particularly when it comes to the barbecued meat, particularly when it comes to the kimchi, for example. So we've retained that in that it's traditional in the sense that it's from my family. So there's a personal touch to it. Even in our kimchi, we've customized it in a way, just from, gochugaru being rather scarce back in the day. We would blend it in with some fresh red pepper and fresh red chilies, and we've kept that still alive in the kimchi that we sell today. So it's that authenticity combined with this new and fresh and engaging and dynamic way of presenting the food. And I think the mix of tradition and modern is something that is so appealing to the Londoners at the moment.
That is true. How did you go about promoting your restaurant and the Korean food?
Like many others, I'm relying a lot on social media. I think now it's really, you have to give individuals the kind of power to advertise and to help market your product or your business. And the main way that I've been able to achieve that is me personally being present at the markets and engaging with our customers and talking to them and explaining the food, handing out cards, and just making sure that you get that follow-up response from them. I think that is key. It's, whilst social media is all about technology, it's kind of behind a computer screen or behind your phone. At the end of the day, it's all about human to human interaction, and I emphasize quite a lot in my business.
So you grill your meat over a coal fire right there and then?
We've got our griddle pans and all our meat is cooked on site. There are sort of various challenges in having an open flame in a market in terms of health and safety, but we work around that in the we've got the pans that we kind of churn out the meat. Nothing's cooked off site, nothing's prepared off site, and that's the beauty of it. People smell it, people see it, and it draws them in.
What sort of responses have you gotten from customers?
I think I've got a mix of customers who know about Korean food already, and they come and find us, and they know it's tasty, and they know they like it, and they want to try it in this new and exciting fusion form. Then we've got those that don't know about it at all, and as I said, they're purely drawn in by the visuals and by the smell. And I always make a point of asking people, have you tried Korean food before? And they're sort of there umming and ahhing, and I say, well, if you've tried it, you will never forget it. So, and I give them a sample of it, and the response has been utterly amazing. I mean, if anything, it's validated my personal belief that Korean food really is delicious. It's got what it takes to be the next big food trend. And every day I'm just astounded by the responses from them.
How true are you to your grandma's recipes? Did you have to did you have to tweak it here and there to appeal to the Western palate better? Or
initially, particularly in terms of like the spice levels. My grandparents, they're from Gyeongsang-do, so everything's a little bit spicier and punchier and stronger and saltier. So I thought I need to tone that down a little bit for the Western palate. But actually, I think I was a little bit too conservative, because upon launching, we've added more spice, if anything. And one of our toppings, we've added fresh chopped red chilies through customers' requests. And I think it's because the palates of the Londoners are getting more adventurous. One of the most popular food, for example, in London is the Indian curry, and they are used to the spice level in the Indian food sense. So, I'm just surprised that I was so conservative, and they love the spice.
What's the ratio of customers who have tried Korean food versus who haven't?
I'd say still now, those that have tried Korean food is slightly less. The majority of people don't know about it,
so it doesn't have much of a presence in the minds of the Londoners.
I think that's true to some extent. There are Korean restaurants that exist, and those that know about Korean, those that know about the food, seek them out. But I think up until quite recently, those restaurants have been very much targeted at Koreans that already live in London, or expats that come over from Korea. So they haven't had that same following as, say, Japanese or Chinese or even Thai has in terms of marketing at localers.
So how did you have the confidence to start this business and make it work?
I think it has a lot to do with my upbringing. My parents always raised me to be very, very patriotic about my country and to promote it and do whatever I could to be proud of my heritage. And I did that, since I was a child. And I think people often forget that being in a corporate environment, you pick up on things that not necessarily directly related to your role. So I think that gave me quite a good grounding to be able to have the confidence to start my own business. And same in terms of, all the friends that I met at Oxford University. You kind of surround yourself within that circle that they kind of almost empower you to be able to do something that you would, otherwise only dream about.
Plus, I think timing is important when you're starting a new business, like especially a restaurant business where you're introducing Korean food that's not very well known to the London public. I spent some time in the UK back in the early 90s when people weren't ready to be more adventurous than say your local Chinese or Indian restaurants, but people all over the world are changing now thanks to the internet, TV, social media. So I guess more Londoners are becoming more and more adventurous.
I think so. I think you're right, and it comes hand in hand with the rise in the street food scene at the moment. That has given ordinary Londoners accessibility to try all sorts of food from different walks of life, from different cultures. And I think that rise has really helped Korean food quite recently.
So for now, you've got 3 meats burritos, and then you've got the fried rice. Are you expanding your menu?
I've been thinking recently about a vegetarian proposition. It's something that's been on my mind. We do have a veggie option, which is a lot cheaper than our meat, because the meat is the main substance of our menu. And I've been told by long-term veggies that it's extremely delicious with the kimchi and the melted cheese on top and the salsa and everything else. But I'm kind of conflicted in my mind as to whether something more substantial in terms of a veggie option, it fits the brand proposition in terms of a Korean barbecue. Because when you think barbecue, it's all about the meat. And it comes to a point where you think, I can't please everybody here. So it's something that we need to do a bit of market research. And
do you make your own kimchi as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's something that, as I said, has been tweaked a little bit from my mother's recipe.
Is it easy to get ingredients that you need for making Korean cuisine?
Nowadays, it's a lot easier than it used to be back in the sort of even, late 80s, early 90s. But it's funny that what started out as almost a necessity to use other ingredients and to kind of tweak it has now become our signature thing, And I think one thing I've learned is that it's all about adapting things, and you shouldn't be afraid to almost challenge the status quo in some ways to help further the movement of Korean food.
Well, I heard that was the secret to the Chinese restaurant industry's success all over the world. There isn't a single corner in the world where you can't find a Chinese restaurant, and what they did exceptionally well was to adjust their recipes to use local ingredients.
For sure.
To buy locally, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So will you continue to have your stall on the street, or are you planning to have your own restaurant one day?
The ultimate goal, I think, is to have a restaurant. I think that's what a lot of street traders start out on the street, because it's less capital to start up and etc. But actually, for me, I'd like to try and retain that market scene as well as operating a restaurant eventually. And the reason for that, I touched upon this a little bit earlier, but it's to do with that interaction between people. I really value that, and it's only within that market setting that you get to really learn the truth about your brand, the truth about your food, by talking to your customers. And in some ways, you can achieve that in a restaurant setting, but I get the sense that it's not as easy to have that interaction if you're under a roof and it's all busy and you're trying to serve everybody. So my dream is to have both.
Perhaps you might want to expand your menu a little bit as well when you do have a set up establishment.
For sure, so that's the idea. I think phase 2 would be to have a similar kind of menu for a lunch kind of proposition, which is quick, easy to grab, healthy. And then phase 3 would be to kind of piggyback off of that success and do something a little bit trendier, as you said, more on the menu with interesting drinks. I hear makgeolli is big right now in Korea, so maybe try and incorporate that.
Any challenges as an Asian woman running this street food stall in a busy marketplace?
No, I don't think so. I think what was difficult at the beginning was just purely getting used to the physical work of
being there, yeah.
And even getting yourself there, like unloading the van, loading the van, carrying all your equipment, and boy, we have a lot of equipment to operate this stall. And it's a good thing that I did a little bit of weightlifting beforehand to strengthen my muscles. That's a bit of a challenge, yeah.
You're visiting Korea to make a documentary about Korean food. Tell us about that project.
So the documentary forms an overall goal of mine that I really, really want to help promote Korean culture and help promote Korean food globally. It just so happens that my business and this documentary sort of helps for me to achieve this goal. And the purpose of the documentary is purely that, and that's the reason why I'm eventually will distribute it purely online, give individuals the power to forward it on, to do as they wish with it, because ultimately that's what it's about. If I wanted to get it commissioned or broadcast and make money off of it, then less people would see it, and what's the point in that, And the main content of it will be focused on the traditional elements of Korean cuisine, from the history of fermentation, straight through to what it's like in present day Seoul, the amazing Korean barbecue joints that you find, the fusion food that you find here, and then finally we're going to document the movement currently in London and take a look at that. So
what's the movement?
In terms of the street food scene, since our launch there have been 4 or 5 different street food vendors that have popped up now. There are talks of a Korean food festival happening with those traders. So it really is, we're just at that beginning of this movement. I can foresee that it's just going to explode.
So which exciting new places have you discovered in Korea this time around while shooting the documentary?
There's been so many places that before I hadn't really had the opportunity to explore to this extent. I think the most memorable thing for me was driving a couple of hours outside of Seoul and visiting a lady, Mrs. Kim, who runs an experience workshop for city people to come and ferment and make their own doenjang, their own gochujang, their own kanjang. And she opened up a pot and showed me kanjang and said, this is shiganjang. This has been here, well, at least in some extent and form, for 100 years. It's so valuable. Families add
like
a little bit to it. They add a little bit to it at a time. And she let me dab a little bit and taste it, and I was just blown away. Like, I could just from that little taste, I could sense the history, the tradition, the countless members of family that must have been enjoying this kanjang. That was the most memorable.
Yeah, you must have gotten some exciting new ideas whilst you've been here.
Yeah, I really have. Like the makgeolli thing is one idea, and just in terms of the kind of marketing of it all, I think we really need to focus on the element of Koreans really socially eating together, the love they have for their land and the passion they have for their family and friends. That really resonated in meeting all these different people. I mean, yeah, I was just blown away by it.
To promote Korean food globally has been on the agenda for the Korean central government for a number of years. I don't know how successful we've been in terms of doing that. I mean, a lot of people know about kimchi and bulgogi and perhaps bibimbap, but there's so much more to Korean cuisine than that. What do you suggest we do to better promote Korean food?
I'm gonna quote Ambassador Ra, who I actually met during the filming of this documentary. He was ambassador to the UK and Japan, very knowledgeable guy, and he told me, be innovative, and as an individual have the confidence to promote Korea yourself and not necessarily rely on others to do it for you,
like government policy, for example.
So from that I really took on board what he said, and I think I'm on the right tracks in terms of the documentary being a very personal take on Korean food. I think what we have to do is we have to make it relevant to those that we are promoting it to. Recent use of idols and whatnot that Americans and Londoners know nothing about in promoting Korean food might not necessarily be the right way to capture the imagination of Londoners.
Or a fancy photo of a bibimbap with a hanbok wearing lady standing next to it.
Exactly. And I think key is to localize Korean food and to present it in a way that's meaningful to Londoners or to Americans. And I think that's the secret.
Yeah. What's your ultimate goal?
I think my ultimate goal is to make sure that every person on the street of London has at least tried Korean food once. Not necessarily a KORRITO, but Korean food, full stop. Yeah.
Well, that's a good place to start with, in terms of a goal anyway. Thanks very much, June, for coming in, sharing your story with us. And I wish you the best of luck with your project, both the small and the big project.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Our guest today, Lee Joo-eun, the founder of KORRITO, a street food stall in London, and a lady who's passionate about promoting Korean food in the UK. And with that, we're wrapping up 101.3 Main Street for today. Thanks, as always, for being with us. Stay tuned for K-Popular with Us One coming up next. I'm An Jang-hyun. Have a great day. Taking us out today is a chairlift with Bruises.